Hello, Leos, and welcome to your July 2026 monthly horoscope. My name is Justina. Welcome to my channel. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. All right, so today we are going to look at the most or some of the most important events happening in the month of July, and I'll tell you how they may influence your life on a deeper level. I follow Western astrology, tropical zodiac, and these horoscopes are most accurate for your rising sign, also called the ascendant sign. However, you can also watch them for your moon sign or your sun sign if you wish, just to get a bigger picture and a wider perspective upon your life. So welcome. All right, so we start with Neptune. Neptune will turn retrograde in the sign of Aries at 4 degrees on July the 7th. So here, Neptune has been in Aries since the 26th of January. It will stay here for over a decade, around 13 to 14 years. And during this time, it will influence your ninth house. And the ninth house deals with foreign places, foreign travel, life direction, the area of self-growth, self-development. Neptune can bring confusion, delusion, lack of boundaries to the area of life that it activates in our birth chart. It can also make us see things or look at life from more of a rose-tinted glasses perspective. So here, when Neptune turns retrograde in your ninth house, this is when you begin to see life from a different angle. So if you felt confused about the direction that your life is heading, if you were unsure how to perhaps approach your area of growth and what activities would be best for you to grow and to develop your skills, and if you were unsure about your purpose, if your worldviews were all over the place, and with Neptune stationing retrograde, this is when you will see things from a different light. This is when the fog begins to dissolve. This sort of energy could also make you change your life philosophy, redefine your beliefs, for example. And it could generally help you to see your purpose and to gain more insight into the direction that your life is heading. Now, on July the 9th, Venus enters Virgo. That's your second house. And this is a shift of energy. Venus in the second house gives us a greater appreciation for beauty, for things that mean something, for things that have a meaning. So here, this is the area of your income, of your values, of your possessions and resources. Sometimes with Venus in the second house, our taste tends to get more expensive as well. We crave things of more value, and watch your spendings during this time. Venus in Virgo is very, very precise, very analytical as well. This energy could also make you assess what you need, what you don't need. It could also make you assess your values. Now, Venus rules over your 10th house and your 3rd house. So for some people, this transit could also manifest as something to do some momentum or movement in the career sphere, because there is a positive connection between your 10th house ruler and the 10th house. Now, Venus will connect with Uranus on the 13th of July, and that's the influence between your 2nd house and your 11th house. So Uranus in a square can bring disruptions, especially connected to your income, to your material security, stability. And with Uranus in your 11th house, the disruption comes from your social engagement, some groups, for example, some memberships. For instance, since Venus rules over your 10th house of career and public life, public image with Uranus squaring Venus, this square could also indicate some shifts, momentum, situation taking a different turn in connection to your career path, for example, your life path as well. So it can be an unsettling influence at first, but at the same time, deeply clarifying. So keep your schedule light around this time if you can, because this is also when the Sun and Mercury retrograde Casimir occurs at 20 degrees of Cancer on July the 13th. This could be also a day of some major realizations that could resurface around this time. Something that you have already been thinking about, but now it might become much clearer. The reason for that is because Mercury is retrograde, so we are dealing with an element from the past, something we've been already thinking about, processing as well. This is happening in your 12th house also. Pay attention to your intuition, to your dreams, to the thoughts that come and surface around this time. On the 14th, so the day after these interesting energies are in place, we've got a new moon happening at 21 degrees of Cancer. That's on July the 14th. New moons are connected to fresh energies, new beginnings, but at the same time, the moon is dark at the time of a new moon. So we don't always have a full picture, full clarity of what we are dealing with. So here, the intentions that you set around this time, it's better to deal with something that you have already established in the past, something that you are familiar with, and a goal idea from the past that seemed unrealistic, that seemed out of reach, might finally feel or seem more possible. There's a lot of behind the scenes work. Maybe you feel like you need to improve some of your skills or heal some emotions or tendencies before you can embark on this brand new journey, for example, especially since Jupiter is on its way to your first house along with the South Node. So you will be reinventing yourself on a bigger scale. And bear in mind, Jupiter is already in your first house along with the South Node almost there too. So you are already in this big reinvention of the self phase. Now, on the 23rd, when Mercury turns direct, this is when you will begin to regain the clarity you may have lacked around the new moon in Cancer. There's a momentum or that feeling like things are finally making more sense, when things are becoming more clear, especially in connection to the new moon intentions, new moon developments from the 13th, 14th of the month. So something private, something that perhaps you worked with behind the scenes, something that was stuck as well on hold might finally start to move forward. You might be moving into a resolution around this time as well. And on July the 26th, Saturn stations retrograde at 14 degrees of Aries. That's July the 26th in your 9th house. So Saturn retrograde, Neptune is already retrograde as well. Chiron is now in your 10th house. So this is a big, big phase when you will be redefining your life philosophy, your worldviews, your belief system. You might be seriously reassessing some of your commitments, especially educational commitments, legal matters you are involved in, maybe some beliefs that you held for many, many years, they might no longer align. So Saturn rules over your 6th house as well. That's the area of Capricorn. So you might also find yourself reassessing some of your work and health habits. Now, during this time, you might also reach out to a mentor or some influential person, a teacher, a coach, a guide who has helped you in the past. You might find their influence very supportive around this time. Now, on the 26th, the North Node enters Aquarius and the South Node enters Leo. This is an 18 months influence that happens every 18 months, influencing your area of the South, where the South Node will be present, and your area of the 7th house, where the North Node in Aquarius will be present. So a major cycle and a really interesting one. The Jupiter is now in your 1st house as well. So generally, have a look because the major activations happen when we have our natal placements activated. So if you have any planets in the 1st house of Leo, then yes, keep an eye on the conjunctions, on any trine sextiles especially. Now, this is a big cycle when you will be reinventing yourself, moving away from any beliefs, habits, things that don't serve you anymore. And at the same time, you've got the North Node in the 7th house, very often with the North Node in the 7th house, because that's the energy of a forward momentum of things generally happening for us, things that don't require too much effort, very often we attract a couple of really influential people into our life that can help us realign us or ourselves onto our path. So this could be someone like a guide or a very supportive friend, someone with whom you really align. This could be one person or two people, but very often these connections appear in our lives and we find them very supportive. They bring clarity in terms of the direction our life should be heading, or we should be heading over our life. With the South Node in the first house, there is a lot of letting go, reinvention. You might be changing your hairstyle, physical appearance. I remember when I had the South Node transiting my first house, I had my braces fitted and I had my braces during that cycle. All right, so of course, this is also a relationship cycle. So very often people with the South, generally the nodes and the eclipses, of course, reoccurring in these houses every 6 months. We've got one coming up in your first house in August, on 12th August, and we had one in February in your 7th house. So these cycles often bring relationships into our lives, love into our love life. So very often people who have the eclipses on the 1st and 7th house axis, they meet or they enter a serious commitment, they get married, engaged. Now on a different level, there are also divorces and separations, especially with people that we don't feel aligned anymore. If things have been rocky, then it's a decisive moment when you decide whether you want to stay or you want to fix this relationship. So it's left or right kind of situation, not just staying for the sake of it. So yes, this could be very much the case. Actually, when we had the Libra eclipses, so for those Libra rising, the South Node was in the first house, the North Node in the 7th. I remember when I told my mom, the South Node was transiting her first house, and I think her progressed Venus was activated at that point, and I told her, this is your moment. Find a serious relationship, and she was single for many years, and she found someone during that cycle in a very short proximity. So definitely keep an eye on any activations in your 1st and the 7th house by the nodal axis, by the eclipses, because if you've been single for a long time, this is your cycle. All right, so moving forward, we've got the Sun and Pluto opposition on 27th. That's also the 1st and 7th house, so watch out, especially here for you, because it's your one-to-ones. For any power struggles, power dynamics, this could be a reality check to certain connections, relationships in your life. Things could you might see a different side of a certain individual in your life. And at the same time, this could be a time when you might have to confront something you've been delaying or avoiding within these relationships, especially since we also have a full moon in Aquarius happening the next day. So this opposition is a build up towards that full moon in your 7th house. And remember, full moons, they show us something that we've been delaying, avoiding, we overlooked, a situation reaching a turning point in your more important relationship, partnership. Here, that's happening on 29th of July at 6 degrees of Aquarius. So here, key relationship, partnership, connection is reaching a turning point. Something becomes visible and it can be avoided. It needs to be dealt with. We've got some quite intense energies activated. Of course, Pluto retrograde. It could be about a situation that has been already an ongoing issue. Pluto is retrograde, bringing something from the past and bringing it to your attention. Things are very visible and they're coming into light now. But on the positive side, on the positive note, we've got also a Jupiter and the Sun conjunction on the same day. So the full moon will oppose Jupiter and the solar point will conjoin it in your 1st house. So whatever that occurs, it could lead to a moment of growth, expansion, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. This could feel like a fated or a karmic situation, dynamic of some kind as well. We will look at it closer and deeper, closer to the time. In the meantime, have a productive month. Thank you so much, Leos. And until the next time, bye for now.